Right now, the February 2026 winter storm Fern is officially over, but the crisis in the United States is not. 146 people are dead. From Texas to New York, from Mississippi to Maine, families are burying loved ones who froze to death on city streets, who died shoveling snow, or who never made it home through the ice. 146 confirmed fatalities. That number is still climbing. More than 1 million customers lost power at the peak of this storm. Tonight, thousands are still sitting in the dark. In Louisiana, utility officials have pushed full restoration back to February 5th. In Tennessee, where ice shattered power lines across entire counties, some neighborhoods have been without electricity for 10 straight days. In Brooklyn, New York, melting snow and road salt have seeped into underground equipment, leaving over 1,000 Con Edison customers waiting for repairs that could take days more. This was not one storm. It was a continental-scale disaster that stretched nearly 2,000 miles. Winter Storm Fern buried the South under crippling ice, dumped record snow from Dallas to Boston, and unleashed Arctic cold that sent wind chills plunging to minus 40 degrees across the Midwest. 34 states, 230 million people under winter weather alerts, the largest coordinated emergency response since the early days of the COVID pandemic, and it is not over. Even as recovery crews work around the clock, meteorologists are tracking the next threat. A bomb cyclone has already struck the Carolinas with another 12 to 24 inches of snow. But forecasters warn that severe winter conditions will continue for weeks across the Midwest and Northeast. The question families are asking tonight is not if the next storm will come, but whether the systems that failed them during Fern will hold next time. Here is the important part. This was not just a weather event. It was a stress test of American infrastructure, and in city after city, state after state, that infrastructure failed. This is the story of Winter Storm Fern, the 146 lives it took, and what it revealed about a nation unprepared for the winters to come. In the maps and satellite loops, you can see it forming on February 2026. A powerful low-pressure system developed over the Pacific Ocean on January 22nd, drifting southeast toward the Baja California Peninsula. Meteorologists immediately recognized the threat. In cold Arctic air, displaced from a stretched polar vortex over northern Canada, was about to collide with two massive sources of moisture, one streaming in from the Pacific coast, the other pulling north from the Gulf of Mexico. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration was so concerned that they deployed a Gulfstream 4SP aircraft directly into the developing storm to collect data and improve forecast accuracy. What they found confirmed the worst projections. This was going to be big. By January 23rd, the system had coalesced over the Great Plains. It began its relentless march eastward. First, sleet and freezing rain hammered northern Texas, southern Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Then overnight, the precipitation shifted to heavy snow. Snowfall rates reached 1 inch per hour. By the morning of January 24th, central Arkansas was blanketed. By midday, the storm had spawned tornado warnings in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, with wind gusts hitting 71 miles per hour in Montgomery. The system continued its deadly path. It crossed Tennessee, where Nashville experienced the worst ice storm in decades. It churned through Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio, dropping up to 16 inches of snow in a single day. On January 25th, it underwent what meteorologists call Miller B cyclogenesis. A new coastal low formed off the southeast, rapidly intensifying as it moved north. By the time it reached New England, Winter Storm Fern had transformed into a full nor'easter. The peak was catastrophic. More than 230 million people were under winter weather alerts spanning nearly 2,000 miles of continuous warnings from the Four Corners region to the coast of Maine. 24 state governors issued emergency declarations. The National Guard was activated in 12 states. Officials estimated that more than half of the contiguous United States was covered by snow on the morning of January 26th. At the height of the storm, more than 1 million customers had lost power. The outages were concentrated in the South, where ice accumulation reached 1 inch in multiple states. In Mississippi alone, nearly 300,000 customers sat in the dark. In Tennessee, Nashville Electric Service recorded the highest number of outages in its history, 230,000 at peak. Our trees and power lines snapped under the weight of the ice. Entire neighborhoods went dark, and the temperature kept dropping. Air travel collapsed. Over 19,450 flights were canceled between January 23rd and January 26th. On January 25th alone, more than 11,000 flights were grounded. It was the worst single day for flight cancellations since March 30th, 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport canceled 75% of its scheduled flights. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport grounded over 1,000 departures. Passengers slept on terminal floors. Families missed funerals. Medical supplies sat on tarmacs. The snow totals were staggering. Bonito Lake, New Mexico, recorded 31 inches. As Boston's Logan International Airport measured 23.2 inches, the eighth highest accumulation on record for the city. Gloucester, Massachusetts was buried under 27 inches. In New York City, Central Park recorded 11.4 inches, a daily record. In Charlotte, North Carolina, 11 inches fell, ranking among the largest snowstorms in the city's history. Parts of the Hudson Valley saw more than 18 inches. By the time the storm finally weakened on January 27, at least 146 people had lost their lives. And for millions more, the ordeal was just beginning. The American Red Cross mobilized nearly 1,400 trained disaster workers across 13 states. They opened and supported more than 125 overnight shelters. On the coldest nights of the storm, nearly 2,300 people sought refuge in those emergency facilities, trying to escape the life-threatening cold. Walk into one of the emergency shelters still open tonight. Gym floors are lined with cots and folded blankets. Children play quietly with donated toys while their parents huddle around extension cords trying to charge phones, desperate for updates on when the power might return, when the roads might clear, when life might go back to normal. Volunteers serve hot meals from industrial kitchens. Elderly residents wrapped in Red Cross blankets stare at silent televisions, waiting for news. These are not strangers passing through. These are neighbors, teachers, grocery store clerks, families who had heat and light just days ago. They are waiting for two things that still have not fully returned: heat and certainty. The storm also crippled the nation's blood supply. Hundreds of blood donation events were canceled across the affected regions. Thousands of units of blood were never collected. The American Red Cross, which supplies approximately 40% of the nation's blood, reported significant shortages. Hospitals stretched their reserves. Surgeries were postponed. Trauma centers, already strained by storm-related injuries, faced the possibility of running out of critical blood types. The fragility of the system, invisible in normal times, was suddenly undeniable. In New York, the death toll tells the story of a city that could not protect its most vulnerable. 14 people died on the streets of New York City from cold exposure during the week-long Arctic blast. Mayor Zohran Mamdani confirmed that most, if not all, were homeless or suffering from mental illness. 10 were found dead outdoors during the initial storm. By January 31st, the number had risen to 14. City outreach workers continue to identify and check on at-risk individuals. The Department of Homeless Services has stressed that no one seeking shelter during a code blue alert will be denied. But the deaths keep coming. In Floral Park, a 60-year-old retired New York State police officer collapsed and died while shoveling snow near a church. Across upstate New York, cities like Albany, Binghamton, and Rochester recorded their heaviest January 25th snowfall on record. Travel bans were issued in Ulster and Dutchess counties. The city that never sleeps was forced to stop. In Texas, the storm brought back nightmares of Winter Storm Uri in February 2021. 13 people died statewide. Two 16-year-old girls in Frisco were killed in a sledding accident after striking a tree while being pulled behind a car. 3 young brothers, ages 6, 8, and 9, fell through ice on a private pond near Bonham and drowned. In Houston, 3 people were found dead during the cold snap. Despite only 0.9 inches of snow falling at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, it was still a daily record. The Dallas Mavericks were stranded on the tarmac, forcing them to postpone their game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Roads across the state became sheets of ice. 2 18-wheelers became stuck on an I-40 ramp and had to be towed. Here is the important part. Tennessee, a state that rarely sees this level of ice accumulation, has extended its statewide emergency order. 21 people are dead. Nashville set a new precipitation record on January 24th with 1.92 inches, much of it freezing rain. Nashville Electric Service recorded its highest outage count in company history. More than 250,000 customers lost power statewide by January 26th, the highest number of any state at that time. Officials have told residents to stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. Memphis and other cities reported over 160 weather-related crashes with 18 injuries. Mississippi reported 23 deaths, the highest of any state. Governor Tate Reeves confirmed fatalities from hypothermia, from trees falling on homes, and from carbon monoxide poisoning as desperate families used improper heating methods. Nearly 300,000 customers lost power. The University of Mississippi in Oxford announced it will remain closed through at least February 8th. In Louisiana, 9 people have died, 5 from hypothermia. 2 deaths occurred in Caddo Parish. 2 more in DeSoto Parish were caused by carbon monoxide poisoning and oxygen concentrator failure due to regional power outages. Governor Jeff Landry toured North Louisiana by helicopter to assess the damage. Entergy CEO Philip May told the over 51,000 customers still without power that full restoration would not occur until February 5th at the earliest. High winds caused further repair delays. Interstate 20 suffered multi-day traffic backups lasting into the end of the week. They are waiting for 2 things that still have not fully returned: heat and certainty. When you step back from the day-to-day updates, Winter Storm Fern exposed fractures that have been growing for years. The first is the power grid. In the South especially, aging infrastructure proved incapable of handling sustained ice accumulation. Trees planted too close to power lines became weapons. When ice built up, branches snapped and took down entire circuits. In West Virginia, Appalachian Power recorded 46,000 outages. In Lincoln County, about 10% of residents lost power. Utility crews have been working around the clock, but the repairs reveal a deeper problem. The system was not designed for this. In one West Virginia coal plant, a change in regional transmission bidding left the facility idle during peak demand, sparking public criticism and discussion of leaving the regional grid authority entirely. Transportation infrastructure also failed. In North Carolina, over 1,000 collisions were reported during the storm. A 100-vehicle pileup closed highways for hours. Portions of I-26 and I-85 shut down. Air travel, concentrated through major hubs like Dallas-Fort Worth and Atlanta, collapsed when those hubs went dark. Over 19,000 canceled flights rippled across the entire national system. A single storm in the South grounded planes in Seattle, stranded passengers in Los Angeles, and delayed cargo shipments nationwide. The blood supply system, dependent on in-person donations, revealed how quickly a winter storm can create a medical crisis. Hundreds of canceled blood drives translated into thousands of missing units. Hospitals stretched supplies. The system has no strategic reserve, no backup plan. When people cannot reach donation centers, the supply simply drops. There is also a deeper climate signal. A warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture. That means when cold air and storm systems do line up, the result can be heavier snow, more intense ice storms, and larger swings between unseasonable warmth and dangerous Arctic outbreaks. Meteorologists are warning that stratospheric temperatures over the Arctic could be 90 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than normal in early February 2026, potentially destabilizing the polar vortex further and sending more waves of Arctic air south. The question now is not only how to rebuild, but how to make sure the next winter storm Fern does not push the same systems even closer to the breaking point. Utility companies are talking about grid modernization. Emergency managers are reviewing shelter capacity. Airlines are reconsidering hub concentration. But talk is not infrastructure, and winter is not waiting. Tonight, Winter Storm Fern is fading from the maps, and another bomb cyclone is still approaching the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic. But for millions of people, this winter will be remembered not by storm names, but by nights spent in cold houses, by long lines at shelters, and by the quiet fear of wondering what happens if the lights go out again. There are stories of resilience, too. Neighbors running extension cords across yards to share power with families in the dark. Volunteers driving hours through treacherous conditions to staff emergency shelters. Line crews from unaffected states traveling south to help restore power, working 16-hour shifts in freezing rain. Hospital staff carefully rationing blood supplies. Honor prioritizing trauma victims, making impossible decisions with grace. Teachers opening schools early so children would have warm places to eat breakfast. These are the moments that will define this winter as much as the failures. We will keep tracking both the science and the human stories as this historic winter continues to unfold. If you found this update useful, consider sharing it, subscribing, and letting us know how these storms are affecting you and your family. And as always, stay safe, stay informed, and stay prepared. How do you think your community should change after what this winter has revealed?